All right, fellas, and it looks like we're good and ready to go. What's going on, everyone? And I hope you're all doing fantastic this Valentine's Day. Welcome to the TXR Podcast. You're tuned into episode number 170, the best spot on Sundays for Xbox talk and so much more from around the game industry. I'm your host, Invader, and after taking last Sunday off, we're ready to get back into the thick of things. Tonight, we plan to talk a lot about Google shutting down its internal developers. As well, we'll be touching on more rumors going about Studio Techland 343 giving some updates about some Halo games, and so much more. However, before we do our deep dives, let me introduce everyone on tonight's panel. And joining us tonight is a common face you'll see in the community podcast scenes, the chats. Our friend from down under, please welcome DBlackRaven. Hey, buddy, how you doing down there, man?
Thank you so much for the invite, Invader. We've been talking about this behind the scenes, and today's the day. Finally, to be on the show. I'm a little disappointed that Tim Dog and Megatron's not here, but that's okay. The show must go on. But other than that, let's go. There's a lot to talk about, so thank you again. Let's go.
Well said, buddy. Well said, and I can't wait to get your opinion on some things. Moving on to the TXR regulars. Centurion Bud, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you, everybody, for checking us out tonight. It is Sunday night. We have some great topics, and it is really good to finally put a voice to the logo, Mr. Raven. I am actually very happy to finally meet you. I see you all the time on Twitter, and when I heard you were coming on the show tonight, I was like, this is going to be fun.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, we'll keep our eyes on Tim and whatnot. We might have some guys coming in later. Moving on further down the list, Eric Shockley, buddy. Hey, did you catch the game last weekend? Shockley?
My bad. I had to reload my bad. I reloaded the Skype and I forgot to click on mute again. It auto mutes you. But yeah, that game was kind of boring. But I was hoping it would be like a high scoring game, kind of like the one. Well, I guess last year's wasn't either, but at least somewhat competitive. But yeah, that defense it was like every time they snapped the ball. What's his name? Mahomes was running for his life. It was like, can you guys not like block for 2 seconds? But then you found out, they had Ndamukong Suh and JPP. I didn't even know they had both of them on the defensive line, who are still pretty good, even though they're a little bit older now. So, but yeah. But yeah, I did try out that Mountain Dew watermelon Mountain Dew that was in that Super Bowl commercial. That thing hits. It's like a carbonated watermelon Jolly Rancher. It's pretty fire. So definitely check that out if you're a fan of watermelon flavored shit.
Right. Oh yeah, you know what? I did see you post about that, and I'm a fan of Mountain Dew. So you see, that's the thing. You guys in the States, you get a lot of like specialty items to try out that I generally wouldn't get a chance unless I cross the border, which I can't exactly do right now. So, but I may need to get you to mail me some of that stuff. Oh man, that looked pretty good. The watermelon Mountain Dew. All right, guys, just a heads up to everyone listening in. We're now available on Amazon Music, so do a search for TXR Podcast, or hey, you know what? Ask Alexa to play our latest episode. We're always trying to give more options to our followers. So you know what, guys? Definitely check us out. We are branching out onto all different kinds of services. And yeah, just again, giving you guys more options to try out. You know what, fellas? We will move straight into our first topic of the night, guys. And we knew that we weren't going to see any big shows or gatherings happening anytime soon. So various publishers and developers are going to have to obviously plan accordingly and get creative. Now, according to an article from The Verge, Microsoft is planning to dedicate time and focus to particular categories and segments of their various divisions. And obviously, events for gaming, Windows, and so on are going to be top on those lists. Guys, obviously, Microsoft has big plans for Xbox, Game Pass, and xCloud. How do you guys think Xbox will position their announcements? Will we see something similar to last year, having a third-party event, first-party, and so on? Or will we see maybe a massive stream of some sort? Tell you what, DBlackRaven, if you want to chime in first, go right ahead, bud, with your thoughts.
Yeah, sure. I'll chime in for this one. Yeah, Xbox has been very silent for the last couple of months. Even so, we got a lot of Game Pass announcements. Like recently, we got Final Fantasy 12 being added, and a much more added to the stream. Anyways, when we will see an Xbox event, I do believe so. As soon as the Bethesda deal is over, which is very shortly, in somewhere in March, I think that's the time we'll see the huge plethora of games to be announced. Maybe sometime in March or sometime in April. But how they're going to do this, I think they should do like a Nintendo Direct or PS Play Now. That's sort of like it's. I think it's gonna be very interesting. This is the way how they're going to incorporate. But the best way to do it, I think they should do a Nintendo Direct or do like a separate show. Like here's a show for Xbox Game Studios, the other one's for Bethesda and ZeniMax to show off like Wolfenstein 3, the Starfield, and even so, like yeah. It's been really quiet, but we're getting to that stage. We're going to see some big announcements along the way till the end of the year. But I'm excited what's cooking up. I'm excited where this is going to go, and I have heard that Xbox is going to go in pretty aggressive from like the stuff I've been hearing. So other than that, it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, and usually around this time of year, we see the different tech shows and whatnot start coming out. Again, obviously, because of the whole worldwide situation, things need to be drastically adjusted. There's an event called the AI and Gaming Research Summit that's going on from February 23rd to the 24th. I know that Microsoft has some stuff going on there. Do you expect to hear like any announcements, or is it just going to be more of like a low profile kind of a thing?
I think it's going to be a low profile sort of thing. I honestly think they want to do like some sort of sneak attack and do like a shadow drop as like, okay, here's an announcement for like Xbox Game Showcase sort of thing. But we have to wait and see it. And I think, like I said before, by the time the Bethesda deals is over, they're going to come all out swinging. I think that's when things start to ramp up. But time will only tell. And yeah, it's time to see show some games. I think it's time to see what's happening for the next generation of consoles and the streaming, the xCloud, even Game Pass as well. So anything's possible. They just need to come out swinging. That's what I have to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, usually around this time, gaming's a little quiet, and we start to hear some things maybe towards the end of February, early March. We start to hear something about the different trade shows or events. I know last year was pretty crazy. Different developers and publishers really had to scramble with regards to E3, and obviously that was canceled. It doesn't look like E3 is gonna come back from this. I mean, I want to be more optimistic, but at the same time, it seems like E3's all but dead at this point.
When's that ZeniMax deal supposed to be finished?
My understanding was within the next couple of days. I know that the European, one of the European boards there is like basically going through the approval for that.
Didn't they say March?
Yeah, or sorry, March. Yeah, well, it's soon, anyways. Yeah, sorry. I keep thinking it's not February. I keep thinking it's actually like a lot later than what it actually is. But
I'm guessing we'll get some type of news, probably of like either an event after like they've officially acquired ZeniMax. I would assume they would be then able, because right now they can't talk. So like whenever someone asks them a question of like, okay, is this game going to be exclusive, or they can't really even legally, I guess, say really definitively anything. So I'm guessing at that point, since they will be able to, once negotiations are all the paperwork's finalized, I'm sure they're going to announce something, or at least maybe, hey, all these Bethesda games are coming to Game Pass that aren't in it right now. Like, I'm sure there's going to be some news to start us, rolling. So probably first off, all the games going to, Game Pass that are all Bethesda owned. And then probably there's going to be some type of event, because if you think about it, if there's not going to be an E3 planning, because I don't know of any word like you were saying about that, that's where usually Bethesda does their big show, and like, hey, our new Fallout, or this year probably Starfield? Yeah. I was going to say Star Citizen for a second, but yeah,
never coming out.
Yeah, but Starfield, this would be like probably the beginning in the next couple months, where they announce it at E3 normally. So now, Bethesda's events are going to be, now that's Xbox or that's Microsoft's event. So I'm sure those are coming at some point. They have to announce that, hey, here's our.
You didn't hear about
lineup.
E3? I'm like lost at this point. Forgive me.
Well, no, you like Vader mentioned it, but I don't know if like that's going on. How everything got like.
No, that's why that was like a general question for everybody, because on February 8th, The Verge came out, and the ESA, the Entertainment Software Association that basically owns E3, came out and said that the event will be held from June 15th to June 17th, and quote unquote, we can confirm that we are transforming the E3 experience. It's probably more than likely going digital this year. And that's where I'm hoping, like with Bethesda, with Microsoft now, the companies now, like Microsoft, PlayStation's been pretty much doing their own shows. Nintendo's been doing their own shows. EA was doing their own shows for a little while. I think Microsoft now has, with all the studios, the chance to be able to do their own stage events. And I really feel that at least E3 should go back to its roots and help kind of give a platform for the smaller developers, the smaller game publishers, to finally get a leg up and get their product out there, so they're no longer being drowned out by the bigger guys that just have deeper pockets and can afford more stage time. With Microsoft, I mean, dude, they're going to be all over the place this year. I even liked one of the points that you pointed out was Invader, was the whole idea of, where are they going to go with the direction with some of the other stuff that they have on, like with AI. There's a lot of unexplored potential still on the Series X side and the Series S side with some of this RDNA 2 Plus stuff. And I feel that there's going to be a lot of advancements in gaming and in streaming and in technology in general this year. And I'm really looking forward to what Microsoft is going to be unveiling, because they've kind of got their hands everywhere. They're trying a whole bunch of new things. And it's all benefiting us in the end. And so I know sometimes watching some of these events is like watching paint dry, but in the end, it all benefits us, because, where they make an advancement in one area, let's take an example. We talked about it the other day, Invader, on TXR, what's going on over at, I believe it was Ninja Theory, Project Mara.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I remember
Yeah,
that,
so look at they are using technology which is most of the time its use was focused at mapping the Earth, and now they're kind of condensing it down into the idea of mapping a single room. So definitely that's what the stuff Microsoft is known for, is to kind of think outside the box and try to put technology from one area into another area and see if by some chance it could, help further the technology along in that area. And there's going to be some really nice stuff coming out, at least on the gaming side here in the future, especially when we start exploring the full potential of these new consoles and the idea of the what is it like where the AI resolution where it's able to fill in the blank spots and create a much better picture that's almost better than 4K.
Right.
I'm going to piggyback on that too, Centurion. You brought up a good point that until now and all the way until 22, 22, 23, they're going to have so much things to announce that we don't know that what's to come. So we only know like Hellblade 2 is happening. We know that Project Mara is coming. We've still got Psychonauts. I believe that's coming out this year. Even Starfield, of which I'm assuming we'll agree that's coming out this year as well. I think so. So, but the chances is high for Microsoft. They can just announce anything what they want to announce, and we'll get to the topic later on the show. And there's a possibilities, so many possibilities. So,
yeah, if you look at it now, they have so many things that they'll have content and to be announcing things like all year long from.
Right.
Like probably forever now, because they just have so many studios. Here's what this one's working on, like this smaller team, like you already have like Project Mara and, Hellblade just from that one smaller studio, where you have the whole thing of Bethesda. Like it's going to be nuts. Like, oh, here's a new DLC for this new Doom. Like you're going to have new content. And they've kind of reached that where people were kind of laughing before of like, how are they going to keep up with these, like, what was their quote? Like every few months they were going to have like a AAA title or at least, they'll supplement maybe some third parties in there. Okay, we have this one dropping, but then they have so many studios and they're looking to probably acquire a few more. Maybe we'll get into one a little bit later in a rumor, but I think that's their plan. They're shooting for it. And if they keep acquiring a few more, like they're going to be nailing it. There's going to be constant content, kind of like when you're going to watch, Netflix or, Disney Plus. Oh, here's the new Mando, or
excuse me, sorry.
There's all this new content to keep you kind of in their ecosystem, and it's hilarious. I was seeing people talk about comparing it to like Spotify. It's like, well, Spotify is like not, I guess, profitable. I don't know their numbers, and they have like 300 million subs. So Game Pass would need to be this verbatim, basically. This tweet, and I can show you. He was literally saying Game Pass would have to get to like 300 million subs, and they probably wouldn't even be profitable too. So, like, you forget that they have DLC, they have microtransactions, they have Xbox Live. They keep you locked into their ecosystem. Meaning, if you're on Game Pass and you're loading that up every night, guess what? If you're gonna buy a multi-plat game, well, shoot. If I'm always turning on Game Pass every night, I might as well buy Madden on here and not on my PS5, if I have both consoles. So that's just more money into their pocket. So that's going to help them make more money and recoup costs. So
don't forget it. Don't. You go, Citron. You go.
I'm just wanting to say something real quick because I see some of the stuff that's being said, and let's just put it out there. We saw recently Microsoft is willing to hornswoggle their own player base into Game Pass with the attempted price raise of Xbox Live. This is their established fan base, people that are already paying into the ecosystem. Do you really think they're not going to hornswoggle you in with the Bethesda deal, eventually, slowly but surely taking all that content away from other platforms, hornswoggling you into the platform they want you in? Come on, they tried to do it to their own player base. Don't fool yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, there's a lot of things that I could see them doing to for example, I'll be curious to see. Technically, they already have different tiers for Game Pass right now with the regular Game Pass and Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. I could totally see them do something where it was like, like you want all the DLC too for these games? Well, that'll be included in this other tier of a Game Pass and so on. I can just see them experimenting with.
Yeah, they already do that now with because if the Hive Busters DLC, you had to have Ultimate, correct? To get that. Okay.
Yeah.
So they already got that down because it's like you also get Xbox Live, so it kind of incentivizes you even more. You get the Xbox Live plus you get all the DLC when they release it, which is cool. So,
and not all DLC is included. You know what I discovered today, Shockley? I was playing around.
Which one? Or which one's not included?
Outer World.
Well, yeah, but that was kind of announced before, so I'm thinking that's why, because
Well,
it was
that-
still
but-
under a different publisher.
Right, but that's where but I would say I myself was fooled, and today when I was surfing around, I noticed the DLC popped up and it had a price tag on it.
Yeah, because that was the thing in their show. People were it said in their show in the summer, it said that one is not included in Game Pass. When they did that announcement trailer for the DLC, it said it was not included.
Yeah, because they're still under the.
It was in small print, but
private
yeah.
division.
Yeah,
Still
they were
with
under with
private
private division.
They were
yeah.
lucky that they even got that thing in Game Pass day one. I was surprised.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean that was
Yep.
pretty crazy too. They were they must have really swung some deals there for sure. No, that was cool. That was really cool what they did there. Obviously, they're so gung ho for Game Pass right now. They see the numbers pouring in, so I'm not surprised that they're.
And that's actually a perfect example right there of even if a game technically from Bethesda goes multi-plat, even if it does, there's still going to be massive perks involved for people in the Microsoft ecosystem that are slow. Like, who doesn't want to save money? So that's where I'm invested in the Microsoft ecosystem, because for me, it's just more economic to game over here. And that this is a perfect example on how the Outer Worlds is it technically a multi-plat game, but in theory, I've technically never bought it.
The only way I think I see, like, say the next Starfield, or and I said it here in the chat, is going to PS5, as if Game Pass is on that platform. I don't think there's any way they're going to be like, hey, play Starfield, best, like they were kind of mentioning, on Game Pass. And to release it on a platform where Game Pass isn't even an option seems completely backwards to what they're trying to do. Their whole focus is, hey, we're buying these studios to, build up Game Pass and their subs. That's all they're really caring and like worried about right now. So to release that on a giant, huge, popular, platform as PlayStation, and then not to even have that Game Pass as an option to build that up, that would be completely backwards to what they're doing, in my opinion. But
No, and that's where everybody always wants to base the situation on, Microsoft of the past, the past. You're telling me that one of these executives like Nadella, Phil Spencer, just couldn't wake up one day with a change of heart and be like, you know what? I'm tired of it. Let's do it. Just saying. It's just that simple. It is that simple for an executive, a company, to have a change of heart, a change of direction, and say, you know what? We're going to kind of do things a little differently, and I think we're going to be a little bit more aggressive.
Totally. Now, did you guys see the articles pop up since we've been talking about ZeniMax and Bethesda and all that? Did you guys see, because of all this going on, the purchase being cleared through Europe and all that, there's been different paperwork filed, and there's been stuff about a new subsidiary, kind of like how it's kind of weird. Like Microsoft is not exactly absorbing ZeniMax Media. They're gonna be like, I don't know if there's like a renaming going on, something called like the Vault subsidiary. Does anybody know anything about that?
Hope did a really good video on it that I need to check out and watch. But did you check it out?
Video.
Oh yeah, go ahead,
Fantastic
because I didn't watch it yet. So if you can fill it in.
Yeah, so what they're talking about is that the quotation of the Vault is that the way he explained was phenomenal. I would seriously highly suggest to watch that, guys. Highly recommend to watch it. So, anyways, I think that the Vault is got to do with the game by cases. That's what I think. I think it's got to do is like, okay, here's the Vault. That is going to be first party. Other one's going to be a third party sort of thing. It's hard to explain in the way, but the way they did it is phenomenal.
All right. Looks like something I have to check out. It's just kind of interesting that I know that some like different podcasts and different news outlets were running with a renaming of ZeniMax. I'm not entirely 100% sure what's going on here, but just something that's been brought up in the file.
I wouldn't be
paperwork.
surprised. A subsidiary, like at least to me, was subsidiary. They're subsidizing.
we're talking about now. At one time, when they probably created, we'll just use Fallout because it's being used as the vault. I feel like the Fallout franchise is probably gotten so big that I wouldn't be surprised if now you have a studio that's basically becoming dedicated to that franchise's existence. We've seen this with NetherRealm and Mortal Kombat. Is that NetherRealm Studios? Am I getting that right?
Yeah, Mortal Kombat's NetherRealm.
Yeah. Also, another one would be like 343 with Halo, the Coalition with Gears of War. At least what I kind of leaked some of the impressions on some of the stuff I read. At least I feel like they just feel like that the Fallout franchise is such a large franchise now that it probably deserves its own full-time, I guess, team kind of maintaining this franchise.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, I mean,
I think
go ahead.
No, I think my audio or whatever cut out when he was explaining what Hogue went over. But I don't think it's going to be like. I think that was just kind of like a shell of where it just makes it easier to make the acquisition and paperwork go smoother for them to just kind of go under, something that they establish. I don't think it's going to be like Gears and the Coalition. Especially how the last Fallout did. They probably have some like rebuilding to like get back some people that were burned going to Fallout 76. So, and I don't think the next Fallout's coming out anytime soon.
Well, that's where, if you look at Fallout 76 though, and the only reason why I look at it from a different perspective is because I've been in the ESO environment for so long that we're talking about, I feel like, a game that was built in the same concept because it came out of the same studio.
Yeah.
For pretty much. It's pretty, I feel like now with what they're trying to do with Fallout 76 is they're trying to, at least that game, you just can't shut it down. It does have its own player base. I mean, there's fans out there that have Facebook pages that are getting banned because they completely, they role play in this game so heavily that they enjoy Fallout 76. So you just can't flip the switch on that. And I do know that games like that, it does require a full-time team to kind of maintain a game. Like if you see what ESO has been doing every single year, those guys like live and breathe just one game, and they've been doing it for a long time. So I'm hoping that this means that they've probably maybe got some big plans for Fallout 76 just to keep fans entertained until they can get the next Fallout single-player game going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What was it? Fuzzy Belvedere here in the chat. Vault will be replaced by the individual studio names. All right. Well.
Okay, you're right.
All right. I see. Well, that's interesting. I mean, we'll obviously learn more as we get towards the end of this process. It will be coming to an end sometime in March from the looks of things. And
oh, dude, we knew as soon as the stories came out that the EU was looking into the acquisition. I knew that everybody was going to be rolling with this just because they're like, oh, look, it might not happen. It might not happen. And Microsoft has the money for some really good lawyers that probably looked into every single law across the world that could go into this acquisition. We're just seeing the process of this acquisition take place. This is nothing more than paperwork.
Or I saw people saying this is going to be outside of Xbox division, so it's not going to be under like Phil. So it's going to be under somebody else. I'm like, no, that's not what's going to happen.
No, this will totally be under. There's no reason. Why do you think they're buying this for? Come on, like it doesn't make any sense. Like for it to just be separate from the Xbox division entirely. But
I think I saw that thread on Twitter. I think Crap started it where he was like comparing like Don and Phil. It's like,
oh, don't get me started.
It's like, but wait, and I gave him a great question. Why weren't these 23 studios here in 2013? Like, why weren't they already here? Like, and this includes Peter Moore. Like, we went 10 years between Peter Moore and Don Matrick where there was zero first-party investment. Zero. That's why they're catching up so hard right now. Mm-hmm. That's why it's like, Crap's like every day he'll say like, it's 525 days since the last AAA. Like, he does a new counter every day. Since the last AAA game dropped. I'm like, yeah, because it takes years to catch up when you neglect for that long. That's because you had Gears, but then you didn't have any others to kind of fill in. So the coalition to make another AAA game again, it takes some time, and you didn't already have these other studios to like, hey, do you have something ready? No, because you just bought them.
Well, again, you look at the structure of between 2016, 17, 18, when Phil was promoted and they brought in Matt Booty, like things were changing then and there, and then Phil was able to make these kinds of moves and get a seat with Satya Nadella, and just be able to basically clue him in and be like, hey, we need this, we need to do this, need to do that, and like just sell him on the premise of Xbox Game Pass and so on.
Here's another great question that solves it. It's like, okay, if someone gave you the keys to Xbox Division, would you want to take over now, having all these 23 studios under your belt to control, or would you want to take over back in 2013 when they had less than a handful? Yeah, I think you'd probably say the former.
Yeah.
Phil had to sit down with Satya to convince him. It's like, look, I can do this. We can make Xbox profitable. And now look where we are now. Like, we're 4 to 5 studios, and now we're into 23 studios. It's insane.
Dude, imagine having to walk in to Nadal and Satya and say, hey, I can make us money, but I want to give our games away for free.
Mm-hmm.
Could you imagine just the look you would give? Be like, how does that make us money?
Yeah. Well, again, guys, either way, I think that just to close off this topic and move on to something else, I think that Xbox, Microsoft, they're in a very good position for whatever shows they have in mind. They've been kind of quiet the past basically since the new year, so I would imagine that within the next few weeks we'll be hearing about what their plans are, and whenever this Bethesda's NMX deal finally closes and they're officially owned by Microsoft, we'll be hearing a lot more about what they're doing show-wise. I would imagine that we'd hear something about a third-party show again, and a huge Xbox first-party show as well. Maybe they'll spread it out over a couple of days, couple of months, who knows? But again, I'm really excited to hear what some of their studios are doing, especially even the smaller ones like Compulsion. But we'll see what happens there. Just there's a lot of good stuff coming. Anyway,
Compulsion Game. Sorry.
No. Go ahead.
Cheers, mate. Yeah, I think Compulsion Games is the dark horse studio that people should maybe pay attention. They should really pay attention about these guys. From the stuff I'm hearing, they're cooking up some really good stuff. So maybe we'll hear something about those guys this year, but we'll see.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you, and I do know that they do have something cooking up that they're really interested in at the moment. But I'm excited. I'm excited to see what they have going on there. I was one of the few that, despite its flaws, I enjoyed We Happy Few.
I did too.
Yeah. All right, guys, moving on. And Halo, of course, is a huge franchise, one of the biggest out there in the industry. 343 Industries are busy with Halo Infinite, but what are the chances that Halo Wars 3 is in development? Well, apparently 0. And in the latest Halo Waypoint update, 343 reiterated that there are no plans for a sequel or updates to Halo Wars 2 at this time. So, that's kind of a bummer. I know I personally really enjoyed the Halo Wars games. Centurion, I'll start with you here on this one. What do you think of Halo Wars just kind of being held on hold at the moment?
Well, I'm kind of curious. They're probably more than likely holding it on hold because there's a tie-in somehow with Halo Wars to Halo Infinite. We all know that because we've already seen a glimpse of somebody from the Banished. I believe that's what they're called. Am I right or am I wrong?
Yeah, the Banished. Well, again, the Banished are the main bad guys in Halo Infinite now. So
exactly. So that means if you want to at least look at it from my crazy point of view, let's say right now they're wanting to at least how do we know that they are not going to run into the pillar? Is it the Pillar of Autumn?
Yes.
No, are you talking about the ship from Halo Wars?
The ship from Halo Wars.
That's the Spirit of Fire.
Spirit of Fire. I'm sorry, I get them mixed up. I don't really live and breathe Halo lore. So, so what'd you say? What was it again, Invader? Wow.
What the original
Pillar of
quest?
Fire?
What sorry, I don't understand the question.
No, the name of the ship again. I'm just saying, I'm just curious on how they're going to really bring that all together, because technically they were stranded in a different part of the galaxy. So now that the Banished are back, are we now going to have the Flood? Because if you played Halo Wars all the way through, the Flood is back. Well, at least Halo Wars 2, forgive me. So we all know that they're going to somehow tie that into Halo Infinite. Now, does that mean later on they're going to do Halo Wars 3 and kind of spin off that? I don't know. There's been a lot of talks about the direction of the Halo franchise after Infinite. Just what are they going to do? Because we all see, like I'm not trying to be mean in what I'm saying, but we see what they're going through just to create Halo Infinite. And so there has been this huge demand for, I guess, like re-energize it. They want a fresh breath of air put into the Halo franchise. And so I really do see a lot of spinoffs coming in the future. And we could potentially see Halo Wars 3 pop up as one of them. But as of right now, I'm reading the article. To me, that was like not really a big deal, because how could you be creating Halo Wars 3 when we already know that they're using some of the lore from Halo Wars 2 in Halo Infinite? Man, we're saying Halo too much.
Yeah, I think the soonest it's definitely going to be a few years well after Halo Infinite. Like maybe in between when they're like working on the next content for Halo Infinite, I could see maybe them trying to fit that in between. But yeah, they're definitely not trying to. They're definitely going to give Halo 2 some space in between, although it's already been a few years, some space in between that, and then wait for, hey, Halo's like, popularity wise is, its stock is going back up, then maybe time to introduce, because Halo Wars 2 came out after people were burned and didn't really like Halo 5, so it was already kind of on a downswing. So, and I think that's why Halo 2 probably didn't do.
Also,
amazing.
we don't even know the fate of Atriox yet. Atriox was, as far as I know, still around at the end of Halo Wars 2. It's been a long time, but we don't really know the fate of Atriox. We've only seen one of his little minions in the Halo Infinite trailer. So that's where I'm like, how can we be building a sequel when we don't even know we don't even know what happened to like one of the main bad guys?
Well, we know that he's off doing stuff at, it's presumed, I believe, the Ark and just that end of the galaxy. And this is just a splinter group that's at, what was it, the Halo Ring, that totally whooped the UNSC's ass from the sounds of things. So, again, if that's a splinter group, then... that's that tells you how lethal they are, and that's without Atriox, and that's very telling.
I just hope they. I don't really care about the future of Halo Wars as a franchise. Forgive me, I'm not trying to be mean, but I really hope they don't just like let the character of Atriox go to waste, because that was actually a very memorable character for me in a lot of Halo games.
He was definitely terrifying on Halo Wars 2.
Right. I thought it was because
hands down the best villain.
Oh yeah, and like I remember when they kept trying to push the brutes over the elite, and nobody wanted to kind of accept the brutes because they were always just kind of like, big and dumb. And then you get to Atriox and all of a sudden you see the brutes in a total different light when you get to Atriox.
There's so much potential that we don't know about Halo Infinite. Like, are we going to see Atriox on Zeta Halo? He's going to release the Flood. Like, anything is possible. I'm so hyped for Halo Infinite, and I know like they've been very transparent of what's happening about the game. And these guys saw the sandbox that you're allowed to grapple the hook into a Banshee and grapple hook on the enemy's weapon. It's so dynamic, and I'm so excited.
Yeah, like Halo, the thing about Halo Wars 2, while it wasn't like, again, our RTSs aren't exactly what you call sell gangbusters on consoles, but I mean Halo Wars did respectable. It's just it was out in a time period where Microsoft wasn't spending as much in the division, so they had to be creative with the marketing for it. And I mean, it wasn't a budget game, I would say, but it was definitely a bit of a smaller title. But
they did enough to get me to buy a game that did enough to get me to buy a game that was crafted in a manner or franchise or style of a game that actually had really little to no interest in me. Like I had no interest in RTS, and then I got to Halo Wars 2. It was like, wow, this is actually pretty fun.
Yeah,
but I would say I'm a little bummed that there's going to be no Halo Wars 3. I enjoyed the spin-off, the RTS spin-off, the way it was, but maybe down the line, the pipeline in a few years' time, maybe they can.
Oh, once they put new life into the Halo franchise, and everybody's talking about their new favorite 4-letter word, Halo. I really do. I do see them probably kind of blowing the dust off of the Halo Wars franchise and kind of trying it again.
Well, again, it's the mechanics for Halo Wars are renowned. I mean, it does very well on console. It's just, again, you can't compare the RTS to the mainline FPS game, right? So, and then you have to try and sell people on that. So I think it is coming, guys, a Halo Wars 3. It's just going to be interesting to see. I mean, again, we have to find out what happens with Halo Infinite. I mean, they must have some kind of plans. It's just they're not willing to kind of speak about them at the moment because, I mean, once you talk about the Banished and whatnot, it's going to go hand in hand with again, Halo Wars. So they're gonna have to again eventually touch on that.
Well, Microsoft is known for allowing their developers in being flexible in the style that they present their games. Recent example, we got DLC for obviously Gears 5, but we also got Gears Tactics, which was technically a RTS. So Microsoft, I'm not saying it is in their total nature to allow these developers to create games totally outside of the normal crafted nature of what we're used to. But with the hype that Halo has right now, I just see them just really concentrating on making sure Halo Infinite delivers the way it should, and then they can kind of worry about the future later.
Yeah, I agree. And I would say 343 is doing a fantastic job just to keep the low toe, and if they need to speak more, they can speak more about what's happening. But I really hope they knock this one out of the park and we'll get the Halo that we know and love back on its roots.
Now, my question here is, do they get Creative Assembly to work on it again? Or do they do they either buy an RTS studio or get another studio within Xbox Game Studios to work on it, like, what are they called? World's Edge, that's working on Age of Empires?
Yeah.
Or
they could.
I mean, I suppose that's possible in the grand scheme timeline of things, but I mean, Creative Assembly did do a very good job with the amount of time that they had, and I don't, again, like I thought they did a very good job on Halo Wars too, so I wouldn't mind them working on it again. It's just who is it? It's Sega Studio. That's the thing.
So can I touch on something, because I see it in the chat about Thomas P said Halo Wars 2. He read that it sold way more digital than it did physical. And there's an ironic part behind that. And that was because whoever bought it physical, I guess if you bought the season pass, you didn't get the Flood DLC. It was those who bought the Legendary Edition digitally got that DLC included with their version. So it basically kind of caused people to buy the game more digitally, because if you bought it physically, it wasn't a complete package.
Right. Yeah, I remember the outcry about that, about the the Awakening, the Flood expansion, and that was a really good expansion. Actually, I really enjoyed what they brought with that.
It made the game a lot more fun, especially when you just saw all those little flood kind of like hordes going across the map, and you're like, oh, now's a great time to drop down some artillery.
But what Thomas is saying, though, Thomas P there, like, that's what I was alluding to, though. Again, Game Pass didn't exist, and yeah, they weren't too friendly with Steam at the time. Actually, it's funny you bring up Steam. There's a petition going on right now by a bunch of dedicated Halo Wars 2 fans to get them to put it on Steam. Just the thing is, I know that the team at 343 is very busy right now, obviously with Halo Infinite. And even the Master Chief Collection still, they have, that's what's actually taking up a lot of time, too, is the updates for the Master Chief Collection. Actually, speaking of which, guys, I don't know if you've been keeping up with it, but there's been all kinds of armor updates and skin updates to Halo 3 and Halo Reach. I couldn't believe it. They recently, I don't know if they added it in just now or they plan on adding it in really soon, but in a recent update they announced Halo 3 is getting a new map. Like, a game that came out in 2007 is getting a new multiplayer map. That's amazing. Oh,
I think I did saw something about that. But the amount of content they're putting out for Halo, like, let's remember this, that they released in a very shit state from when it's launched, and now you're seeing how much of a growth of the Master Chief Collection is going. It's ridiculous. So they're doing, like I said, I think 343 are doing a really good job, getting back on the toes, dipping the toes, get Halo Infinite done, supporting Master Chief Collection, and doing what's next for the franchise. I think they're doing a really good job. So I have a lot of faith for the team. I think they're very talented, and like what's the trend said about the Halo Wars. Honestly, they should bring Halo Wars to Steam. So I want to see, like, there's some sort of resurgence. Like, okay, so here's the numbers. The numbers is calculated. Maybe we would continue with the RTS genre. What did you guys think about that?
yeah, sure, why not? I'd be down.
Well, think about what? I missed the question. Forgive me.
Putting Halo Wars 2 onto Steam, and do you think they will see a resurgence?
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, no, that's what I was saying. Like, there's, like, I don't see why not. I mean, obviously they need the manpower behind that, but there's a petition going on for it. I think it has quite a few signatures as it is. I think a lot of people would like to see it brought to Steam because a lot of games, they find new life. So
when Master Chief was put on PC, remember, it was like it was on the top charts. Remember when it got its PC release? Everybody was playing it on PC. Like, I've noticed that the PC community is clamoring for Halo content. If they were to put that on Steam, oh my god.
Well, between that, I remember Sea of Thieves did really well as well. So
yeah. I was shocked.
So, no, I mean, hey, you know, a PC community really wants to play these games, Steam as well. So I don't see why not. They've been just the way that Xbox and Microsoft have been with Steam recently. I think Forza Horizon 4 too just got added to Steam, if I'm not mistaken. So,
Yep.
Yeah. So
that one did.
So obviously they're committed to putting them out on more options for the PC players. But it's interesting, guys. Even there was a pitch for Halo Wars 3 back in 2017. I don't know if any of you guys knew about it, but they were concepting how space combat would work in a Halo Wars game, like space battles, you know, and different. I don't know if it was like, you know, different ship-to-ship combat and whatnot, but I know that it was rejected. But I thought that the concept was pretty cool. So who knows? Maybe we'll in an eventual Halo Wars 3 game, maybe we'll see something like that come to light. Would you guys be excited for that?
Absolutely. I love my RTSs. Love the RTS games. I haven't started Gears Tactics yet, and I'll probably get around with it as soon as possible. But no, like we'll have to wait and see. I think they just need to focus on finish off Halo Infinite and see where this will go. I think there's a lot of things underneath the belt that they can really do. Like, what I would really like to see is more like an RPG, Mass Effect, some sort of Halo type of genre. That would be sweet.
Well, I think they have enough internal studios now where they might be able to pull something like that off. So before it was just a matter of resources. Now, given some of those teams, they can they could do some expanding, but otherwise, I think, hey, anything is possible now. Since they bought ZeniMax and Bethesda, anything is possible. I don't take anything away from them at this point. All right, fellas, we will move on to some other bits of news. And I'm just out of curiosity, guys on the panel, guys in the chat, do we have any baseball fans in the house? I mean, I wouldn't exactly call myself a huge baseball fan. I've been to a few Toronto Blue Jays games. They're kind of a mixed bag, especially recent years. But because MLB The Show 21 has been officially unveiled for Xbox. We knew, there was stuff going back a year ago where they were talking about this, but it's official. It's coming out April 20th. Back in 2019, Major League Baseball had announced a deal, and it would extend to other platforms. Eric Shockley, buddy, what do you think of MLB The Show hitting Xbox? Because, a lot of Xbox fans, they've been craving a premier baseball game, and now they're getting it. How do you feel about this?
Yeah, it's definitely good, I think, for just gamers in general, especially since, 2K hasn't made, a baseball game in forever. Same thing with, hopefully this goes that way in MLB, or say the NFL does what MLB did with Sony, and hopefully, hey, we're going to let others, hey, 2K, we see what you're doing, on that side, as far as with the 2K for their basketball, maybe we'll let you license out. I don't know if 2K even cares to get into that now, since they haven't done it for so long, but it would be cool if that one would also go to let other developers in on the action. So obviously baseball is probably not as popular of a sport, so it's harder to get into that when Sony's had it for so long and dominated. But it's definitely great that it's not just locked down to one platform playing, a major sport, for America. So it's kind of like with the Spider-Man thing. Although I kind of give Sony a pass on that with the Spider-Man franchise, because, we've never seen a Spider-Man game to that level. So them funding that, for funding, footing the bill for Insomniac to put in the work to actually, craft that, ends up better for everybody, even though I guess Spider-Man's gone, but from other platforms. But in this case, since it's what used to be thought as America's pastime, it's a big major, just uncasuals in general, to just lock away that sport to one platform. No, but it's not Sony's doing. It's everybody else just fell out and couldn't get it to work, or couldn't make it profitable enough. So. But yeah, I think it's definitely a good thing. But
because I remember the conversation going back, for a few years now, that a lot of players wanted to see Xbox be more aggressive when it came to some of the sports games, sports franchises. I'm not necessarily talking about certain licensings, because I know there's issues around that. But it's welcome. It's more than a welcome to see MLB back. But even just I see all the time. I see people posting all these old classics for football franchises, football titles, because again, games under EA like Madden, FIFA, they've just become so they get updated every year, and they don't seem to be very significant in their updates. They just, again, it's all about microtransactions and so on, and a lot of people just seem to want more variety in the types of sports games that are out there. So I've always kind of wondered if Xbox would, maybe, for example, get an exclusive on a soccer game, or maybe not a hockey game. I know that's that's a little more specific. Hey, up here in Canada, that's what we breathe, hockey. But maybe something a little more, I would say, worldly, like soccer.
Maybe since they foot the bill for all those services all the coaching staffs use, maybe they can bring back NFL Fever.
Oh, right.
Get the license back, but yeah, that's long gone. But
yeah, and then even some resurgence.
That'd be their way in.
Yeah, no, right. Yeah, well, yeah, doesn't I remember years ago Microsoft had that deal with the NFL. What was it, $1 billion? They were touting it to as like $1 billion deal right when the Xbox One was announced. So.
Oh yeah, check on your fantasy people while you're playing your game, which no one cared about. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that didn't really go. So
yeah, it was like that walk that, what was it? Seeing Don Matrick and like Roger Goodell like walk on the field and talk about like sports, which is like, you can just tell these guys. I know Don Matrick's like made games in his past when he's younger, but it just felt like you just feel like detached. Like these guys don't play video games. There's no way. Just the way I don't know. There's just something that was off by them. That was like, this is so detached from the gaming community. It's just off-putting.
Well, that was the thing with Matrick. I mean, whether his background had gaming in it or not, or he developed some things, he just came off as very corporate, very much in a suit, where, like, for example, Phil Spencer doesn't exactly rub me that way. He seems more open, more... I
remember when Peter Moore brought him on stage, like at E3, when he was still with EA, and it just felt, he just kind of put off that feeling of like the Steve Buscemi meme, where it's like, hey kids, or hey fellow kids, or whatever, when he's walking in with the skateboard and a hat backwards in the school. It was just like, I don't know, you didn't think that he really cared about the, and he obviously didn't, because he let Bungie walk people. And that was the other way, the reason Peter Molyneux left later into his years with the 360 is a lot of them left because just out of, the way their studio was going. So, and then Peter left after a lot of his, talent under him left. So then Lionhead gets shut down, which they were off making, Fable Legends, and Fable 3 kind of had a not so great, like, as far as critically acclaimed. It was still, I think, a solid game, people thought, or just overall. But
well, I enjoyed Fable. I really enjoyed Fable 2 and Fable 3, to be honest. The issue is, well, again, his promises. I know a lot of studios and a lot of producers and creative directors, they make a lot of broad statements, but man, they really they really stretch themselves there, especially with what Molyneux was saying. And well, then you look at Thomas Moller's comments recently regarding Molyneux, very enlightening, very truthful in a lot of ways. I kind of have to back up Thomas on that one.
Yeah, to answer the other part of that question, no, I don't think any other Sony titles are coming to Xbox. I don't think that's going to be a start of something, unless that's like way super in the future when Game Pass is on PS5 and like each one of them. Because I do think like that could start a domino effect where, okay, Game Pass is now on PS5, it's now on, Switch, and you have, everybody has, kind of like you have now with Netflix kind of started it, and now every CBS, everybody has like their own subscription that they're getting started with. So I think when that starts going and everybody has their own and they're doing well, because, we either have 5G or whatever is super fast that people are streaming and don't even buy consoles, and you have people that just casually probably don't want to go out and buy $500 consoles or never do, or even $300. Well, everybody has a phone, and everybody probably has whatever the newest, bandwidth for their cell phone internet. And then at that point, when that many casual audiences, can actually play some of those games, just that easy, entry into the gaming community. I could see then maybe, they might have their own established, where they already have PS Now, but like even more like, okay, cool. Now it makes sense for us to make a ton of money because, millions and millions of people now are able to, play these games, kind of like people with Netflix and stuff like that, when you wouldn't have thought that, 20 years ago. So.
Mm-hmm. DBlackRaven, I'm kind of curious, since you're from Australia, down under there, you guys, typically you guys tend to steer towards rugby and cricket. Are you interested in anything like that?
Unfortunately, no. I'm not a big sporty fanatic, unfortunately. I get to the topic of the baseball thing. I think it's a great way to see that this title has been for so long going to the Xbox ecosystem, and I think it gravitates more players, and it helps out the studio to craft, if they want to make another sports game, they could do one. And do I see other PlayStation games? Definitely not. Definitely not see any other PlayStation games to other sort of systems. But no, I'm not a sporty fan, unfortunately. But it's good. Mm-hmm. It's good to see. It's good to see the baseball going to other systems to let players to enjoy. But there's a lot of people have been asking for this for so long. But yeah, no, it's good.
Mm-hmm. No, that's cool. No, I mean, that's great that a lot of people on Xbox are going to be able to play and experience MLB The Show. From what I understand, I believe it's Sony San Diego that makes the game, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so. Yeah. I'll have to check into
that. Please correct me in the chat if I'm wrong, but I mean, they seem to do good work. So again, I know some people, just people I know around me, that generally like baseball. I wouldn't mind playing this. So again, it's a welcome addition to the Xbox game portfolio, of course. But yeah, guys, we'll move on to something else. Either way, it's just nice that this game is finally coming to Xbox platforms. And you know what, guys, we will move on to the rumor mill. And I know a lot of people want to talk about it. I know a few of the guys in the panel are really itching to talk about this. And as we all know, Xbox is constantly on the hunt for studios and IP and so on. Well, a couple of trusted insiders are suggesting that Polish studio Techland are in talks with Microsoft for acquisition. Now, guys, this is a name that has been brought up a few times already. Even I've brought them up as potential targets for acquisition by Xbox. And now we're seeing more and more credible sources starting to talk about this. What do you guys think is the likelihood of Techland being bought by Xbox? DBlackRaven, I'll start with you on this one.
I want to talk this one. This one's been going on since last year. Shout out to Logan Meyer and Archimedes. We've been talking about this for so long. First of all, I love Dying Light. It's definitely one of the best zombie games since last generation. I probably spent around 500 hours into it, and to see the growth and how they continue the IP, they just recently launched the new DLC. It's got to do with Vikings, and it's really nice to see they continue on that. But anyway, off topic. Do I see a potential for a acquisition for Techland? I will say, I'm gonna say yes, and here's why. You got Chris Avellone, who was writing the script for Dying Light 2, and he just recently walked out. And they are trying so hard to get themselves back into the map. And the thing is, I don't think they're in trouble, but I think they need some financial support to help build, to finish and build the game for Dying Light 2. And I also would see You know what? I think this could be a time exclusive because if you look at ACG, from he's a really really excellent YouTube content creator, and he was mentioning something about that he can't announce absolute zero tolerance to say anything about it, and I think that's what he's saying. I think this is aligning to consensus. For anything is possible. I really do think it's a studio acquisition. If they pick up Techland, that's brilliant because I think they're fantastic, absolutely fantastic team. And or the another thing is there could be Xbox is in the talk to say, hey, we'll help you finish the game, and we can have Dying Light 2 as a time exclusive. And that's what they should probably do because when you look at PlayStation, they've got Final Fantasy VII Remake and Final Fantasy 16 that's time exclusive for like 2 to 3 years. We don't know how long it is, and that's the sort of aggressive move that they should do. But I know that Phil Spencer's been all nice and stuff. They don't like to put their games that people that can't reach out, but I think it's a good way to, have that title. It's such a big IP to have a time exclusive, but I honestly think I would say yes. I think there's a potential acquisition for Techland. But another thing is when you look at CD Projekt Red and the way they're having trouble right now, that's another thing they might also look into. Anything's possible. Anything's possible. So I'll say this. I'll say yes. I think they're in the talks for Techland to join Xbox Game Studios.
Well, I will say again, guys, that take all this with a massive grain of salt. We're just kind of speculating here, but there are a lot of credible sources that are really piggybacking off of this rumor and going with it and seem to know a few things that we don't. But I will say that, again, we don't know if it's obviously going to be a timed exclusive or not. Recently, there was the Dying Light Collector's Edition that was leaked. I'm looking at a picture of it. It looks pretty cool with the statue and everything. It does list Xbox, PlayStation, and PC versions of the game. So again, we can't necessarily say that's going to be a timed exclusive or not for Xbox platforms, but again, very interesting talks going on right now about Techland and Dying Light 2. The community manager for Techland, he came out and denied these talks, but I mean, this kind of stuff has happened before, right, guys? Community managers often downplay these kinds of things because, again, legally, these companies, if they're in these talks, they can't just openly talk about them until the deal is done, right? Or they announce things. Obviously, Techland are currently working on Dying Light 2, which has been in development forever from the looks of it. And we haven't heard about it in a very long time. So, I mean,
that could make sense if they needed like help with funding. Obviously, it's taken them longer. So, well, yeah, that would also kind of point to funding, because if you had the resources, you wouldn't have to keep pushing it off. The reason you do is because you don't have the manpower, to pump out and get the work done. So
yeah, they announced they showed off the Dying Light 2. I'm assuming E3 2018. Am I correct?
It's about that.
Probably
about that. Yeah, and we haven't heard ever since. So they're probably in the financial crisis. They need some help. I was like, the Dying Light 2 is one of my most anticipated games. I hope it's coming out this year, and I honestly don't want to see this IP to go away. But I honestly think there's some talks. As if the community manager is saying it's not happening. You know how people are saying, yeah, it's not happening. But when you look at it, Insomniac, they got acquired. So anything's possible, guys. Anything's possible.
It's not out of Microsoft's wheelhouse. I have my theory on, the game Scorn was supposed to be a 2-part game that was crowdfunded and kickstarted, and it was still having some financial issues, because if you go read a lot of the statements that they put out on their crowdfunding pages, they needed more money, and then lo and behold, out of nowhere, a air quotation marks anonymous benefactor gave them a huge cash influx, and all of a sudden Scorn is technically a Microsoft ecosystem exclusive, temporarily. So in my opinion, I wouldn't be surprised if Microsoft had something to do with being that mysterious donor. And on top of, if that's the case, then this is totally not outside of Microsoft's wheelhouse to put a large amount of cash into a game that they feel has some teeth to it, and can help bolster the Microsoft ecosystem, if not as a permanent exclusive, but even as a timed exclusive.
That's right. And yeah, I mean, you've seen Microsoft flex their muscles recently in the past couple of years with acquiring, again, we were just talking about it, Bethesda, ZeniMax, along with a slew of other studios. So they don't mind spending some cash right now, and they're on the hunt for IP and studios. And I think Dying Light would be an interesting IP for them to be involved in.
And
yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to add, we brought it up earlier with Ninja Theory and how they're advancing the technology that they use to create games. And other developers have to be taking notice of this. They're like, oh my God, they sold to Microsoft, and they're getting to play with that kind of stuff, and they're doing this and they're doing that. And here we are, doing crowd starters and, crowdfunding and all that good stuff to kind of keep our dream going. There is a point in time where a developer doesn't want to see their dream die either. So, they are going to get help rather than see their dream just kind of get shelved and never been put out into the wild.
Yeah, that's right. Techland, obviously we're talking about Dying Light 2, possibly the funding behind that. You also forget too, or a lot of people forget, I should say, Techland is also behind Dead Island, and Dead Island 2 is an IP that got announced. I remember way back when at E3 2014 at Sony's conference, and it's just been a sad case of being passed around from developer to developer to developer. It's currently in development at Dambuster Studios, which is under the Embracer Group, if I'm not mistaken. The THQ Nordic and all that. And there's an IP too that, who knows, that's kind of been in development hell. So maybe they need some more funds for that. And again, they don't have too much IP other than that, but they do have the Call of Juarez series, which not a lot of people, but I do know some people that have an interest in that title, and it has garnered some praise in years past. So I'd be curious to see what they do with that, with funding. Otherwise, guys, I mean, I would totally be behind them getting Techland. I mean, I would assume that, I'll be honest, off the top of my head, I'm not 100% sure what they're worth, but I don't imagine them being $1 billion studio by any means. So
can I throw just a random crazy idea out there?
Go for it.
All right, well, here. We all know, like, Undead Labs is a studio in New Orleans, right? And if our memory serves me, shortly before the pandemic, many moons ago, before the pandemic, they were talking about how they were expanding Undead Labs. And so I'm just saying, there's a lot of talent when it comes to zombie style games over at Techland. And the fact that they're expanding a studio that specializes in games that deal with zombies, this could help them fuel, by providing a lot of talent and I'm just saying that they could definitely use this to benefit Xbox and Techland at the same time.
I agree.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting that they're going after. Well, it would appear that they're going after Techland, but they seem to have such a good relationship with Bloober Team at the moment. So another Polish studio. So
I'm sorry, Invader. I will have to say that Microsoft has been very chatty with the developers over in Europe. So maybe there is something aligning for sure.
Well, they're chatty with everybody at the moment. I don't think they really care where anybody is. It's just a matter of the IP and what they can bring, to be honest, and what they can address in their portfolio. Recently, we've heard Phil and other higher ups in Microsoft and Xbox talk about, I think it was Phil actually, about wanting to get, for example, more E-rated games into the Game Pass catalog. And I'm just curious to see if they'll pick up an E-rated developer such as, I don't know.
Platonic.
Well, I was going to say another Play, because I think Platonic just set up their own publishing wing. So I don't think they're necessarily interested, but they could be interested in working with them. I was going to say Playful, actually, the Super Lucky's Tale developer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that'd be a good pickup.
Because I had heard something along the lines of them, I think it was Clobriel who had mentioned this a few years back, about them working on possibly, I don't want to misquote the poor guy, but I believe so, that they were toying around with a rare IP of some sort, but I don't think it's one that would automatically come to mind. So it could be, for example, Viva Pinata, for all we know.
Come on, Jet Force Gemini.
Hey, that would be nice. I would welcome any of those old IP coming back. But again, if Perfect Dark is making a comeback, then why not? Why not Jet Force Gemini? But then, you look at Techland, and then very recently, too, a week or two ago, we had rumors of Paradox Interactive as well being brought up.
I saw that.
And Paradox Interactive isn't a publisher that naturally comes to a lot of people's minds, but they're involved a lot in, a lot of more recently popular PC titles, RTS titles, such as Crusader Kings, Stellaris comes to mind. And they have quite the strong communities there, player base. And I could totally see them wanting to add more of those types of games and studios to Xbox Game Pass, to their ecosystem for PC alone. So I could totally see them being interested in Paradox Interactive. And I think it would be a little on the cheaper side too. So just a little bit anyways. But yeah, guys, things are really heating up out there. I think I brought the Embracer Group up earlier, but just this past week or so, they announced that they bought Gearbox for $1.3 billion. I mean, companies, they are looking to secure content like crazy right now.
Let's not forget about Tencent. They are like vultures.
Well, I would be very wary of anything Tencent's involved in, to be honest. I would not want the tentacles of the CPP being or CCP being to get into any of these beloved companies. I know that Tencent, they do have, I think, a little bit invested in Paradox Interactive that we were just talking about. They have like little 5% holdings here, 1% here, 2% there. But I just, honestly, anybody but Tencent. Anybody. Definitely.
All of these mega companies they're all invested to gaming. Gaming is becoming huge, and we'll get to the topic soon. And you still got Amazon, Luna. I think that could be the next competitor with Xbox. Like I said, we'll get to the conversation later. All these megaton companies are just snatching studios, and this is like Microsoft and hopefully PlayStation does the same thing too, because they don't want to lose all these great games and great studios to be lost to their hands. They're trying to save them as possible, and with the Techland thing, I honestly think that there are some talks with it. And for Paradox Interactive, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, that's probably the only other like double-edged sword for Microsoft is them buying up Bethesda for $7.5 billion is then probably making other companies think like, oh, well, crap. Well, if they buy up more, there's not going to be that much left. Like, so it's going to probably start other like things like Tencent that have been just growing and growing. Think like, hey, if we want to get on this, maybe we need to buy one of the big publishers that's still standing.
It's called an arms race.
Yeah.
And it's already been sparked. They're basically everybody's trying to build the biggest missile. I hate to make references to like the idea of like a Cold War in gaming, but definitely we're going to see some studios companies snatching up studios just because they see like look at what the pandemic did for gaming. Gaming grew insanely because everybody was stuck at home. So they see what gaming can do and everybody wants a slice of that pie. I like how Invader talked about he doesn't want Tencent kind of running around. I don't either. Tencent has their tentacles so deep that I know they're invested everywhere, but they also do have their hands deep enough in the fact that if need be, I mean, in some of the articles I read, they have enough say-so over certain companies to where they could actually walk through the door and potentially have what's known as a corporate hostile takeover, and they could start dictating how things are done.
Yeah, and I'll be shocked if Tencent snatch Activision. When you got Call of Duty, one of the biggest IPs in the world.
One would make sense for them to hit.
100%, dude.
Anything that has potential in the mobile gaming market will have Tencent's attention first. Tencent, at least right now, seems heavily focused in the mobile gaming network and market. They do have stakes in other companies, but it seems like the majority of the companies that they're at least purchasing right now kind of lean more towards games as a service and mobile gaming.
Can you play Warzone on mobile yet?
Not that I'm aware of.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if that hit.
I know when you pop up Tencent, one of the games that comes up is Call of Duty, the mobile version of Call of Duty, and there was also another. There was another mobile game, but I just can't think of off the top of my head.
Diablo Immortals.
That one, yeah. Basically, they're just creating mobile games.
Like, dude, there's a possible chance that Tencent snatched Activision, and there goes Blizzard. They got Diablo, they got Call of Duty.
Oh crap!
Oh yeah,
I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, think about that.
And they also have stakes in the music industry and in the movie industry. I think if I'm right, I believe the last Transformer movie that aired or that was in theaters actually had a Tencent logo appear in the credits.
Really?
So yeah, like these guys are everywhere.
Yeah,
they've grown a lot in the past year, like on their stock price.
Yeah, just again, they're a company to just watch out for. I don't want any of these Western developers or publishers to be bought up by a very hostile.
They are the deaf beating on the deaf's door, man. They're knocking each door.
Like
I know
Thomas,
people don't. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say one last thing, and then I'll let you go. I know people. I've been talking about like they don't want to see where like now I forget what it's called. I think it starts with like an O, where basically it's not a monopoly, but where you have a few players that own everything.
So,
and at that point, but the only thing I'm not going to say like that's going to be terrible is that, well, at least if that stops players like Tencent or other companies that have like no relationship in the gaming space, I'd like to see that versus like someone coming in like Tencent and doing a hostile takeover, because that just makes a lot of that talent in that studio just go or leave or split off, and then that studio is not what it was. So I mean, I would like if we don't have really a choice at this point, then I'll take that scenario versus Tencent or other players that don't know what the gaming community or like just in general, or how to run a studio. Buying them up.
Here, like, because you didn't realize that they were in entertainment. 10-cent Pictures, Venom, Monster Hunter, Wonder Woman, Terminator, Dark Fate,
Exactly,
Top Gun,
Monster
Maverick,
Hunter.
Bumblebee, Kong Skull Island, Men in Black, Warcraft. The list goes on. These guys have been making movies for a long time, and we've been consuming them, and we're just
look at
now
the
starting to them.
track record on some of those movies you just named.
Oh, I know.
The recent Men in Blacks, Monster Hunter.
Oh, yeah.
They're all basically, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but some of them were quick money grabs.
Oh, totally. But they didn't make a lot of money on some of them.
Oh no, I didn't.
Question for you.
I didn't want to say they were successful, but they were an attempted quick money grab.
Yeah, go ahead, DBlackRaven.
Yeah, I've got a question for you, Invader. What's your what do you think about Techland? Do you reckon it's a possibility for Microsoft to acquire?
Well, like I've been saying, anything is possible since the whole ZeniMax thing. I will say, though, that I've been one of the ones mentioning them for the past few months now. And while they don't have a large catalog of games, they do, like, the couple of IP that they do have are interesting. And they're a pretty large developer. I mean, they used to publish stuff, but I think they gave up their publishing wing a few years back, if I'm not mistaken. But I think their size is about 250 or 300 or something like that. And I think there's a lot of potential to the studio if they had the less monetary constraints on them, and obviously the development has been going haywire for both Dying Light and Dead Island 2. So I would put it as plausible at this point. They do seem to be talking, and I wouldn't mind that addition to Xbox Game Studios personally. Although, like, I do like Bloober Team. I think there's a lot of potential there. So
I agree. I've been hammering that studio for so long. I'm still playing the medium, and it is one of probably the best psychological horror since Silent Hill.
Yeah.
They seriously grab him. Bloober, perfect.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of interesting developers coming out of Poland right now. You see, what are they called? The Astronauts. I think they did The Vanishing of Ethan Carter, if I'm not mistaken. And of course there's other developers, but I would not be surprised if they got a pretty decently named developer from Poland. And Techland, I would put it as a big plausibility in my mind.
What about this, guys? Is Microsoft still owns the Dead Rising IP?
They don't own it. Capcom owns it.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, like, if they can snatch up Techland, maybe they could give it a crack at reviving Dead Rising.
Dead Rising is one of those IP that they have a close relationship with. That's why back when the Xbox One launched, they had Dead Rising 3, and it's still exclusive to Microsoft and Xbox platforms, Dead Rising 3. Because, they had to fund it. So I don't know about Dead Rising per se. I think there's some interest there, but I think that IP needs a few more years to just kind of just give it a little bit of a break personally. Honestly, like, with the rumor mills running around with Xbox, like, who they're gonna buy next, they could buy up anybody at this point. Who knows? It's a guessing game.
Somebody on the chat, Jesse Darby, about From Software. Yeah, they're making Elden Ring. I don't think that will be time exclusive, buddy. I think that's gonna be multi-plat. And as for From Software, nah, that won't be required, dude. Not happening.
I will say, though, that Sony is bound to make some moves soon. I mean, obviously, 2 years ago they bought Insomniac. I expect them to acquire another dev or two. I wouldn't be surprised at that I mean, heck, even Nintendo acquired a developer a few months ago, so it was a smaller dev, but still. So,
Oh, it's a given that PlayStation is going to be looking for more developers because we all remember what Jim Ryan said when Microsoft acquired Bethesda. He was unsure of what the state of his ecosystem was going to look like if by some chance Microsoft starts taking content away from the ecosystem. So they have to definitely think about making sure that their ecosystem can never be put in a situation where there's going to be a lack of content just because they didn't buy studios.
And this is why I have a gut feeling that Square Enix might be one of them. Shockley, I'm gonna quit. What do you think about that? Sony, what do you think about that? Sony going to acquire Square Enix as for a publisher?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't like hate that one. Like if they put in more, funding and that helps. Who knows when we're gonna finish? Because I loved the remake of Final Fantasy VII. So who knows, like when the part 2, part 3, or whatever they're gonna do with that. How long that takes. So if like they're getting first party money and they're even more funding, I can see it. It all just depends on how it goes. Like with the Spider-Man, that kind of probably benefits. We don't get as good of a Spider-Man, if it was just under Activision or what have you. But I mean, I don't think they would, since now they're just getting so much more cozier with Microsoft recently. Like you saw them like tweeting back and forth with Game Pass handles. So I don't think, unless it was kind of like, hey, we just have the money to buy you outright. I don't think relationship wise they would probably opt to do it now, since they're getting a little bit cozier with Microsoft. So if they need money, they know they can go to either, and they can just keep doing what they're doing. Hey, Sony, you want a timed exclusive to kind of fill in the gap between some of your bigger titles? Cool, buy a 1-year exclusivity, for the next Final Fantasy game or Final Fantasy remake. Cool, that helps them out with the funding. They still keep their independence. So I don't think it would happen, but yeah.
Going back to the Techland thing, because you just reminded me of something.
How much would they need to buy them though? Like that's the other thing. It would be a much bigger percentage of their capital or cash on hand than what Microsoft did with Bethesda. But that they had $137 billion in cash. Now they have 130. They're still set. they're okay.
So
they have
shot, like going back to Techland, forgive me, you just reminded me of something. We all know, like Microsoft, or we all know Game Pass has a not one size fits all kind of policy. What if Techland came in and said, hey, what if we put this game day and date in Game Pass for either a huge cash infusion into the game, or basically the Game Pass gives them an avenue to get the money they need to get the game on its feet without selling themselves to Microsoft.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that happening, because that could help fund whatever their next project is. Like if this one's not going too well and they need something to finish.
That's the whole kind of purpose behind Game Pass that Phil Spencer put out there was, hey, what if you have a game you really want to get out there and you just don't have the money? We can give you the ability to do that, and you can become successful off said game and then go do off bigger and better things.
Versus you bombing and then it not working out, and then you don't recoup all those costs and you get shut down because you can't pay your staff.
Yeah, I agree. I don't want to see Techland having the same problems that's happening with CD Projekt Red.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, the whole what's going on with CD Projekt Red is it's worrisome. It is worrisome with all that. Hopefully they can clear up their mess.
Man. I don't think we would see Sony make a purchase like what they just did with Bethesda, like buying a Square Enix. I think that might take a little too much, like too much percent. Like they would, I think, have the capital, but I don't know if they would. It would be much bigger risk.
I don't think they'd want to make that kind of.
They would probably buy studios like they did with Insomniac. They just bought Insomniac, and that's turned out to be a great buy. They got a deal on, and they've made like 3 games for them. They've been like the one that's working the most. with the next Ratchet and Clank that's about to come out in a few months.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the past 2 Spider-Mans. So I think they would just get Bluepoint or maybe some of those smaller studios they have a relationship with, buying up some of those, or some of the ones they've been working with some of those Chinese devs that they've been helping out. So
Yeah, definitely.
Now wait a minute. Now this actually just reminded me. You just said Embracer bought Gearbox. Have they basically stated that what they're going to do with some of Gearbox's more exclusive titles? Like, do they plan to keep them that way, or?
I have not heard any communications from Embracer about that.
Because I'm curious on how going forward a lot of these companies are going to handle, like we all know how Microsoft and PlayStation are going to treat some of these more, exclusive IPs versus companies that are just looking to get into the game space. They're just going to, in my opinion, slap it everywhere.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about Embracer. They have been buying up all kinds of devs, but they haven't been like... I mean, this has probably been one of their larger purchases, I mean, along with THQ a couple of years back, but they're not as menacing as some other big names out there, so I'm not too worried about them, to be honest. But yeah, guys, I'm very curious to see what happens with all the Techland rumors going around, and I know they're just rumors, but I don't know. I just can't help but feel that there's some kind of plausibility to them. But you know what? Take everything with a grain of salt, and just keep tabs on it. Anyways, fellas, we will move on to what will be our last topic of the evening, and even though it's the last topic, it's some pretty big news, and obviously this was, probably covered on some other podcasts like a week or so ago, but Google recently came out stating that they'll be closing its 2 Stadia game studios in Montreal and Los Angeles. All as well, producer Jade Raymond is also leaving the company. Third party will still be releasing and supported on the platform. However, at least for now, Google's new strategy seems to be for Stadia games just to offer their streaming tech to other companies at the moment. And Phil Harrison will be in charge of that. Ooh, oh boy. Now, guys, this situation with Google closing its first-party developers, it's really fascinating for a lot of reasons. What are all your takes on this? Because I don't think a lot of us were thinking that this would happen so soon.
Can I kind of say the first word on this?
Go right
ahead.
I'm
sorry that I'm going to say it like this, but I think it's bullshit. Like, if you want to see I think it's a studio. If you want to see the victim here, in my opinion, go play Journey to the Savage Planet. That studio. I can't believe I found that game and bought it before it ever made its way on the Game Pass, and I enjoyed playing it. I bought it on a whim, and I had so much fun playing that game. I still got to play the DLC. I bought it too, but didn't Google buy the developer for that game, and pretty much they were considered a first-party studio, and now they're gone.
Yeah. Typhoon.
Yeah.
Typhoon Studios.
Yeah, that's
so
correct.
That's why I'm putting it out there as BS, because you didn't have to go and buy these developers up and, on a failed experiment, can them.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, well, that's the thing about Typhoon. They came out swinging with their first title, Journey to the Savage Planet. I haven't played it, but I mean, it's tempting because it's in Game Pass and it seems up my alley. A lot of people talk highly about it.
Play that game. I played that, to put it out there, I played it so heavily. I got all the little orange, little globby things. I did the collectibles. I left the planet after 100% completion of the planet. And it's kind of funny when you do that, the game, there's a different ending to just leaving the planet after you just achieved the main story objective. So definitely I put a lot of time in that game. I had fun. I kicked a lot of space creatures, just out of funny. I remember showing my wife that, and you just go around messing with little space creatures. That game was definitely unique and a very, very fun game to play. And it's really tragic that a studio like that got bought up by Google, and Google is now just going to, I guess, what are they going to do? Leave these studios by the wayside? Are they going to find somebody who's willing to purchase them? Did we just witness a lot of people watch their jobs go away?
I think
I'm kind of mind blown.
I think that it was something along the lines of basically 150 people have to find new jobs, pretty much from how I'm reading things, anyways. So basically, if I interpret things correctly, those two studios, the one that they made and the one that they purchased, are closing. So that's, that is heartbreaking and unfortunate, because I believe before Google got involved with Typhoon, I believe even Microsoft was talking with them at some point. But
Yep, they were.
Yeah, but Typhoon, I don't think they wanted to necessarily grow into a much larger studio, if I remember the talks correctly, the behind-the-scenes stuff. But I guess it doesn't matter now, because Google's shuttering them. And yeah.
I don't know if you remember this, but I think it was last year that Clobriel was like doing like this sort of rhyme on his Twitter feed.
Yes, I know which one you're referencing.
Yep, I think that was the indication for Typhoon.
Oh yeah, I think it was too. Well,
100%.
I think again, I don't want to speak for Clobriel by any means, but he definitely has his squirrely ears in the right places, and yeah, he knew something. But honestly, it's amazing, because over the past couple of years, Microsoft have been referencing Google and Amazon as the companies that they were worried about, with how they're approaching their streaming and whatnot. And lo and behold, Google is basically, from the looks of things, bowing out. Amazon seem to, while they're not bowing out, they just seem to not know what to do in the gaming space.
Google's thrown in the towel. Amazon is a victim of failure to start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let me see. Let me see. Well, we all know about with Google and Stadia. I don't even know what the future of Luna may hold, but we all saw with Amazon, they tried to come out with some kind of a battle game, like arena battle game, that was taken out of beta and put out, and then it was put back into beta and then taken away indefinitely. Wasn't it Jason Schreier just recently wrote an article stating that Amazon is one of these companies that has all this money and all this talent, and they have no idea what to do with it. So I don't know what let's just say, if Amazon ever plans to really get into gaming heavily, they're going to need to get somebody in there that kind of knows what they're doing and knows what to do with a gaming studio, because at this point, I don't even know how to describe Amazon other than I don't even want to use someone else's terms. So I'll just continue saying it's like failure to start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Shockley, I'd be curious to hear what your thoughts on Google closing their first-party studios are here, because it's I don't think a lot of us imagined that this would be happening so soon.
Yeah, I didn't think it was so soon, but yeah, I think that's what everybody was like. I get it, you own your games that you buy, but it's like there's this kind of gut feeling of like, cool, when I put down $60 on a game, you just feel like, well, Google might shut this down at any point, and then like kind of like people are worried right now. If you bought Google Music, you're not losing it, but you will lose it if you don't transfer your profile over to YouTube Music. That's where they're moving it, since they own YouTube. But that, yeah, it's just kind of that feeling of like, yeah, I just bought, whatever it is, Cyberpunk, $60, but it's kind of like, I get digital purchases on PlayStation or Xbox that, they're digital, but you feel like they're more grounded because they have like a physical presence. Whereas like Google's just now stepping in, and, you just think, oh, okay, we'll probably shut it down at any point, and then now you have a game tied to this weird platform that's not really going anywhere anymore or has a future. Whereas at least the Xbox, if xCloud didn't work out, well, you still have your digital purchases on the Xbox platform. So, yeah, it's it's sad to see like it went out that quick, but I think all of us, as soon as they launched it, kind of saw the writing on the wall. Like, yeah, this isn't what we thought. Like, I was kind of excited when they first announced it, when they first were talking about how like seamless everything was. But then when they launched it, and it was a pretty like poor launch at that beginning stage, it was just like, if this is your best shot, yikes. So,
yeah. And Amazon have not fared much better, although they're not closing anything at the moment. They have shuttered a few of their games, and Crucible's been a disaster, as well as a few things. Looking back at that Double Helix purchase from a few years ago, it's a shame what happened to them. They could have done well with Microsoft, just saying. They're looking for somebody to do Killer Instinct right now, so that's kind of biting them. But yeah, I mean, I always kind of wondered about Google, because Google, they don't tend to follow through with a lot of whether it be their products or a lot of their teams too. So I was kind of anticipating them to try a little harder with Stadia, but man, it has just not worked at all. I don't know if you guys noticed, but recently Google has had a lot of bad communications with its devs. Recently, Terraria dev came out saying that the dev account was locked out. He was locked out of the YouTube, Google Play, and even the Gmail account, which is kind of shocking. And the back and forth was going on for, I believe, a month or two, and he just got fed up. So the company will no longer support Terraria coming to the Stadia platform. I mean, it's just, how can you have that much poor support? Terraria is basically on everything at this point, and you can't get
it's huge.
Right?
Yep. Chair is huge. Can I chime in for this one?
Yeah, of course. Go ahead.
Sweet. Okay. I'm a little disappointed about Google Stadia, because I honestly thought this is where the true competitive is going to happen. When you see Xbox, what they're battling with their xCloud, and the Stadia, or Google battling with Stadia. I have no idea how they flopped this so easy, and just to kill off the studio like with a Thanos finger snap. It pisses me off when I see these big companies are like, we're gonna join in, we're gonna do something and then the next moment it's like, we can't do it, we can't compete. Like, but at least I can at least try to like jump in and do something, or just like put your hands behind your backs and fiddling your thumbs. It does pisses me off. And as for Jade Raymond, this one's interesting. She's the one that she did the Assassin's Creed with Ubisoft. If I think she'll be a great pickup to put her with the initiative if they decide to have a second team for the initiative, or if she could go back to work with Ubisoft. She's very talented. She's very talented at what she does, and she does a lot of great things.
Mm-hmm.
But
well, yeah, she's known for Assassin's Creed and a few other things. I wouldn't mind seeing her at Xbox Game Studios. It's just a matter of which studio. I mean, I would argue start a brand new studio under her and see what happens. So.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, but I mean, otherwise, yeah, no. Losing Jade Raymond, like there's a few other key characters in there as well. I mean, I had mentioned Phil Harrison in there, but basically wherever he goes, nothing nothing good happens. It happened with Sony in Europe, with their studios. It happened at Xbox, and now Stadia.
I think he just joins on at the wrong time.
Oh, 3 in a row. Yeah, he really joins on at the wrong time.
I was like, yeah, this whole Sony thing's not really working out. At that point, they weren't. So like, okay, cool. I'll go to the one that's hitting right now. I'll move over to 360. Cool. Oh crap. I'm getting Xbox One, and then well, that's not going to. Now I'm going over to Google. This seems like a cool new thing, and maybe this will take off, and then yikes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I definitely don't want him back at Xbox, to say the least. But either way, guys, this whole thing with Google shutting down its internal studios, man, it wasn't even. Maybe it was a year since Typhoon was bought, and then just shuttered. Like, that's a pretty fast turnaround. I don't think they produced one single game under them for all that money that they spent. What a waste. What a waste.
How much did they spend for Typhoon?
It wasn't very much. I'd have to look it up now, but I don't think it was a lot of money because they're so small. That's not the point, though. I mean, they released a console or a streaming device, anyways, with nothing. Like, no real big exclusives. I think they had one indie exclusive game at launch for it, but otherwise they had nothing, absolutely nothing that made it unique for other people to be like, oh yeah, I wouldn't mind really getting that Stadia for that game or this game. It's like anywhere else they could get the same games, but I mean, they actually own the product, and even the way that their subscription goes as well for Stadia Pro, I think it's called. It's kind of wonky as well. So right out the gate, they just really screwed up the Stadia. Even the name, too. The name. I'm not really a huge fan of the name either, to be honest. But that's besides the point. Go ahead.
The question for you guys: who can compete Microsoft at this stage? Who do you think?
I would say
Sony, if they wanted to get it, because they could use Amazon's server, so they wouldn't have to although they've done those ties with Microsoft, so they're probably gonna work out a deal there. But if they want, they can go with Amazon's servers if they want to help their direct gaming competition. But I would say them, if as far as if they want to compete with Game Pass and make a service. If think about it, if their first party games are in it, they would immediately compete with Game Pass with PS Now, if that's what PS Now was.
Yeah.
The newest God of War and Horizon are in their day one, or the newest Spider-Man, Miles Morales, day one, then that thing's gonna hit. But I don't know if they're ever gonna do that or anytime soon. But I think that's the only thing that's gonna compete, because I think Amazon's just gonna be the same thing with Google, unless they make their own exclusive games. That's what it's going to have to be. Microsoft's got that down. That's why they went and bought Bethesda, to help boost Game Pass even more. And you've seen how fast they've grown in the past year and a half in subscribers.
I think what killed Google is definitely when Microsoft just acquired Bethesda and ZeniMax, and Google sees as nah, we cannot compete that. We can't top.
Oh, I think they killed him. What was that event they had in Mexico when they said, "Oh yeah, XCloud it's just going to be in Game Pass basically with Ultimate."
That was last year. I think it was in London.
A second he said that, oh no, you just get XCloud, because Game Pass Ultimate was already a thing. So we were just waiting to see, okay, what's the pricing on this XCloud? How's it going to compete with what Google announced? And it's oh yeah, no, you just get it for free if you already have Ultimate. So it's oh, and then I get to play my game. And think about it, you can use your own Xbox as a server, so you can play your entire library using their services. And soon they were going to let you play your games in xCloud anyway, apparently. So, or most of their stuff's going to be in xCloud going forward, just day one. Think about all the Bethesda games. Since they'll be first party, those will be xCloud streamable day one, just going forward. So it's going to be ridiculous, and you don't have to pay any extra money if you already had Ultimate. who's gonna? You can't compete with that with Google with what Google was offering.
No way.
Yeah, that's the thing. Well, either way, it's I mean, I want to say I expected this, but I just didn't expect this so soon. But it's a shame what happened. I hope those devs find jobs fast. I think Compulsion was saying, "Oh yeah, guys, come over here, come apply here." At least to the Google Montreal devs, anyways, or former devs. But yeah, I guess Microsoft doesn't have to worry about Google anymore from the looks of things. But we'll keep tabs on how the Stadia does from here. It looks like they'll just be doing third party from now on. Okay, guys, I think on that note, though, we will wrap up tonight's episode. And guys, I guess it was a really fun time tonight discussing, all this news that made the rounds over the past few weeks. As always, an insanely massive shout out to all the people in the chat tonight. Man, you guys are always on fire. Jesse Darby, I know you were lighting up a storm in the chat. Fuzzy, very active. Pike on Fusion. Attack the Scene, thank you for joining us tonight. I hope you listen to the rest of the show. So many Pang, 911, Thomas P, you were very active. Kenta Wilson. So many others, 9 Lives, a lot of regulars here. We really appreciate you guys hanging. Mike, Froggy T. Wright, and so on. Many, many good people here in the chat. But yeah, guys, if you haven't done so already, remember to hit the like button and share this out all across social media. We really appreciate you guys checking us out each Sunday night. Now let's get to, let's start signing out the panel, starting with our guest, DBlackRaven. Bud, thanks for joining us for all the fun chatting tonight. Where can everybody follow you at?
Yeah, of course. I just want to say a big thank you to Invader for inviting me to blast and sitting down for the first time talking to Centurion and Shockley. Again, you guys are awesome what you guys do on the TXR, and I seriously would love to see you guys continue on that journey. But yeah, you guys can find me on Twitter, DBlackRaven, on Xbox, DBlackRaven. And the games I've been playing is I'm almost 100% in Yakuza 3, the remastered, and I'm also playing Lula Night and Mist 2, which is phenomenal. If you guys enjoyed the first game, I would suggest to pick up Lula Night and Mist 2. But yet again, thank you so much for coming in, and yeah, I hope we can do another episode with you guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah, brother. Well, next time our schedules align, we'll make it happen. Always make something happen there. Yeah, no, thanks for coming on, DBlackRaven. Again, great community fella right there. All right, moving on to the TXR crew now. Eric Shockley, buddy. Again, I really enjoyed your commentary tonight. Where can everybody follow you at, bud?
Yeah, as always, you can find me at ShockNeuro on Twitter, Easy Shock on Xbox Live. But yeah, great show tonight. Thanks for stopping by.
Short and sweet. I like it, Shockley. Centurion Bud, good stuff as always. Where can everybody follow you at?
Well, for starters, it was finally nice to meet Mr. DBlackRaven. Again, it's all, you talk to these people on Twitter for so long and you make relationships with them, and you never ever really sometimes get to put a voice to the name, and this is one of those instances where I was able to do that. So, and also thank you everybody for tuning in tonight. For those interested in following me, be sure to follow me at Centurion1307 on both Twitter, YouTube, and Xbox Live. You can also find me kicking it over on the Shop Podcast every Saturday night, and I kick it right here every Sunday night on the TXR Podcast.
Hell yeah, guys. Check the Shop Podcast out every Saturday evening. And you know what, guys, to round this out, this is Invader, and of course you can find my content over at Invader Gaming on YouTube, and you can also follow my content under the same name, Invader Gaming, at Minds. Great show tonight, everyone, and we cannot wait to see you all here next Sunday. Good night, folks.